Hello and welcome listening in to Uncle Data's podcast. And this time we have a guest, Valentinas, who's going to talk more and explain about data teams in Hostinger. But of course, before diving into that, it's always good to know whom you're talking to, and a bit more details about them. So, Valentinas, could you give an introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's I've been hearing glimpses and some tales about Uncle Data's podcast, and then just recently I've listened to some of the episodes and I really enjoyed them. So I'm honored to be here and very humbled. So yeah, if we're talking about me, so basically my whole career I'm hosting hostinger was my cradle and still is. So basically I started off my professional career here at Hostinger. I started off as a marketing data, no, not data, just marketing assistant. Sorry. So I was basically helping with marketing initiatives. I actually really enjoyed that, and I've climbed the vertical ladder in the marketing field, and I joined the affiliate marketing department, where I was responsible for uh, gathering potential leads for partnership opportunities for Hostinger. So that was actually really kind of a steep learning curve in terms of how the business works. You have to know a lot about our products. You have to know, some sales skills. So that was coming fresh, basically fresh from university. It was really yeah, steep learning curve, and so that gave me a lot of knowledge into what Hostinger is doing. You have to have this deeper understanding of the business, as I mentioned, and so this kind of made me very interested in the data that's coming in from these partnership agreements, because there are a lot of tracking links. You have to understand how Google Analytics work. You have to understand how certain partnership platforms work. How do they track things? And I really got hooked onto that. And naturally, I started creating some Google Sheets reports, dashboards, uh, and I wanted to kind of go even deeper. I wanted to know how we could scale things, and I started understanding that in marketing, if you don't have data, if you don't understand the data that you have, you're basically blind. And in terms of partnerships, in terms of affiliate marketing, uh, the amounts are enormous. They're huge. You have to be very cautious of the partners that you're dealing with and their performance. So data was crucial. And I felt that, and I really felt satisfaction in working with this data. And basically, I came, with zero knowledge of SQL or, any other like data. I didn't have any other data background, just this first for this kind of knowledge. And luckily, I was sitting next to these two really bright individuals, so Greta and Neris, my colleagues. So if you're listening, yeah, the best wishes. So, and I was sitting next to them and I was basically bugging them about data. So they were, Nereus is now the lead data engineer at Hostinger, and Greta is the lead data analyst at Hostinger. So they're both very strong in what they do. And I was really, always really, and I'm still very inspired by, by their skills, by their knowledge. And they basically helped me develop my skills. So I started learning SQL. With our move to BigQuery, it was, I think, much easier than if I would have to write, queries in MySQL databases. And basically, after every query, I would need to go and make some coffee, with those running times. But I was fortunate enough, spoiled maybe with the cloud solutions like BigQuery. So it was really easy to learn, because you run a query, it fails. Why did it fail? I don't know. I have to dig in. So I Google stuff. I ask Greta or Nereus. And basically, with trial and error, I got pretty good at creating queries, understanding how data is moving in Hostinger. And yeah, basically from there, we started building this modern data team at Hostinger. And I just went along with really smart people and basically, yeah. So now I am responsible for the analytics engineering department inside our data team. And yeah, so I'm now helping members of our analytics engineering sub team, let's call it, to help them on board and help them understand the data that we have and how to manage it and help others while doing it.
Okay, so since you mentioned analytics engineering,
Mhm.
so and it's a quite interesting, in general term or like position in general, So what is to you analytics engineer?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, so uh, it's actually not this really well established, let's say, position as it, you basically hear data engineers or data analysts in the more traditional data teams. But analytics engineers, I will copy this description from DBT Labs, the I would say the pioneers of analytics engineering. So it's basically like you're a librarian. A librarian does not do research himself, but he's responsible for the information to be available, to be, in an orderly fashion. So anyone, wanting to conduct research would know where to look for that information. They would know that that information is not outdated. It's trustworthy. So yeah, so it's basically you're a librarian. You're helping others without going deep into the research or deep into you're not writing books. You're also arranging them. So that's a good analogy of I guess analytics engineering. But in terms of day-to-day work, so analytics engineering a position bridges the gap between data analytics and data engineering. So data engineers, they load the data into your modern data warehouse. In our case, it's BigQuery, and we basically take it from there. So it's no longer the old ETL, it's ELT. So data engineers, they take care of the loading part, extraction and loading part, and we take care of the transformation part. So we make sure that the data is documented, the data is there's proper business naming for the columns, there's tests on every model. So you give it this boost of you're giving the data more trust, and you're helping the data to transform from these very technical terms or technical concepts into actual business knowledge. And so then once the transformation is done, you're serving the data to data analysts or other business stakeholders so they can use the data properly. So they're sure that once the data went through the analytics engineering team, it's trustworthy. So it's for sure tested. There's no duplicates. There's no outdated information. It's documented. I can always check the documentation, what every column means, where does it come from. So analytics engineers basically are responsible for whatever happens inside the warehouse, and so I guess they're also very responsible for the integrity of the entire data team, because the business does not see it's data engineering or data analysts or analytics engineers. It's basically data team. So data team is, if it, even if it divides into these sub teams, still the business will see you as a one unit. So I guess the most you know heavy burden falls on analytics engineering to make sure that that pipeline is running and that the data is correct.
Okay. So since you mentioned, like business teams you're seeing as one unit, and you mentioned already, a couple of teams. So could you give a brief overview, like what's the data team's structure, right? And where do they sit, in hosting, right? Just because, it's very interesting to hear, how different companies position different data teams across the org, right? In some situations, it's under CTOs, chief CPO, right? In some cases, they have a whole data department. In some situations, it's under sales, like, who's doing that kind of thing. So what's the situation, with the structure you have, and, where are you positioned in the company?
Yeah, so we are positioned under the chief revenue officer. So basically, that person is responsible for multiple teams, including we would call it revenue team. So revenue team is basically responsible for pricing, setting the prices of our products, making sure that basically the pricing part is covered, and then there's the data team next to the pricing team. Uh, so I wouldn't say, yeah, I've heard that it's data teams are usually under the CTO, but in our case, it's more we're stronger, I guess, on the analytics part of things. So, and our chief revenue officer is very strong in the analytics part. So, I guess it was natural to put the data team under the CRO supervision. Um, yeah, but it first of all, I guess we were under the CFO because there were a lot of people were seeing data
Don't
more.
say don't say Excel. Don't say
Oh,
Excel.
no. Well, yeah. Excel was always there. It still is. And yeah, so basically there was a lot of information in Excel and, finance stuff. And the most important KPIs, I guess, in the company are, under the CFO's responsibility. So if it's billings, revenue, or the most important key metrics. So it was natural to put the data team under the CFO, so he kind of helps us with our priorities. But as time went and new people joined the company, uh, we saw that there's so much data and so much we can cover with the data, so that we needed a person that would see it, as a whole, the organization as a whole, and how data can help the organization, as a whole. So not just the finance department. So and right now we're doing that. So yeah, I guess it's not very how to say typical, but we're exploring, always exploring, and never settling. If it's under the CTO or CRO, um, we have enough, I guess, freedom to set our own priorities without, the priorities coming down from the top and driving us to a certain topic.
Mhm. Yeah, but that makes sense, right? Because you're actually providing services, right? And since you're providing services, right, optimizing the price, and working on that actually seems kind of logical, to position it like that, right? If it would be I don't know, more of engineering related matter, right? Or you would have like split, right? Maybe analytics would go on one side, data engineer would go to different, but then there's going to be silos and other things. So, nah, that actually makes sense in my eyes. Okay. And the second part of the question. So, what are the structure? You're rolling with a centralized team. You're doing, decentralization. Um, what's the take? How you're rolling now?
Yeah, so it's a hot topic right now, I guess, because when we started, as I mentioned, there was only like data analysts and data engineers. We were pooled into one team, data team, and as time went, we understood the need for the third position, so analytics engineering came along. And right now, what we're facing, guess this challenge, this headache for our chief revenue officer is to how do we properly scale the team, because the need for data is growing rapidly. People are asking more and more questions. People want to query the data themselves, and that kind of puts a lot of load on the pooled resource, on the pooled data team. And we were right now the current structure is one data team. There are a few scattered analytics in, let's say, marketing or product team, but they're detached from the data team. They don't understand our DBT structure, our well, now they do kind of. I'm happy that they're started to grasp what we're working on, but they're basically interested in are answering marketing questions, and they don't go deep into architectural things. So those are a few scattered analytics. uh, but as I mentioned, we're facing this challenge of we see that we need to hire more people into the data team, but we're not quite sure if if having more people inside the data team will actually help to scale our operations. So the what we want to do now, maybe run this experiment of, okay, so we have a few like successful cases of uh, a marketing data analyst is becoming more and more, self, uh, mm, self-sufficient. He can answer the marketing questions with the DBT models that we provide. He can be responsible for, the partnerships dashboard, the TROI dashboard by himself. He doesn't need guidance from the data team. He did need guidance. We kind of helped him on board. We you know, gave him some background about where the data comes from, and now he feels solid to own the dashboard. Whenever a question on Slack comes in, I can redirect the question, instead of answering the question myself, I can redirect the question to the marketing data analyst and can fully cover it. So that's very satisfying. And we see this successful case, and we kind of want, to scale it. So we want to, the idea is maybe place a data analyst in every team, so if there's a product team, so let's place a data analyst inside the domains team, inside the web hosting team, inside the VPS team, and see how it goes. So they will be immersed into those topics, participate in sprint planning, and I don't know, even team building. So they are kind of scattered, and maybe have this one data guild where we all come together and share knowledge, and share some updates, what's happening in this department and that department. But the core of the data team is developing the platform that those analysts can use. So as analytics engineers, we would be responsible, as I mentioned, for building this platform. So we build the models that the analysts need, but we don't build the dashboards ourselves. So we keep that responsibility to the analysts that are working in that specific field and on that specific topic. So in order to get that depth, in that topic, I believe that we need to kind of, do that scattered approach, because me personally, I have to, know a lot about domains. I have to, when I'm finished 2 weeks working on a domains project, I have to jump on a web hosting project. I need to gather tons of context, and then, I build a dashboard. As an analytics engineer, I kind of construct everything from the source to the dashboard. I get this ton of context, and then 2 weeks pass. Okay, bye guys, bye web hosting. I need to go, help the payments team to find, chargeback cases. So instead of doing these jumps, we're thinking about placing a dedicated person who would work on that specific topic, and if he needs new models, if he needs new dashboards, he's kind of a client to the core data team. So maybe the core data team needs to build a certain model or certain source that's not already defined. So I guess there's no answer of there's no wrong or right answer in this case, but for us, we're feeling that when the company is growing so fast, you cannot have one structure and you know, you cannot rethink. You have to rethink every quarter. I don't know, maybe every month. Is the current structure that we have efficient? Is it, you know, serving the business? Are we still on the edge of technical innovation? And you have to balance that and always ask the question, how can we do things better? You know, because I guess in our business and in the stage that the company is currently in, you know, new people are coming in, the revenues are growing, you know, 2 times year over year or even more. So it's really important to kind of stay in the loop and never feel like, you know, oh, this is working and we're good, and you're ignoring some things, you know, that there may be appearing because of how fast you're growing. So you have to be always one step ahead in terms of the structure of the data team.
Yeah, why fix it if it ain't broke, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, on that, this what you said, right? What was interesting to me, is that it looks like you're still gonna be like a service center in this end, right? Because you're gonna be the ones building it, right? So I
Mhm.
guess the next step will be onboard people, get them domain knowledge, right? And then onboard additional wave of analytics engineers, I guess, and then they could build them all themselves, like moving, to the decentralized or like data mesh approach.
Mhm.
Okay, 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 that sounds interesting. So that's quite a challenge, right? Onboard new people, help them gather all the context, and not lose any speed, while you're doing at it. Because anyways, new people always, take more time from others, and that also kind of results. So good luck on navigating that, because that's going to be interesting, uh, but fun challenge. So good luck on that. Okay, so since you mentioned that you're going to be hiring more people there, so I guess we can jump to the one of the interesting topics for me is like uh, so what are the interview structure at Hostinger at the moment, at least, or maybe you know about the different roles, how they're different, it's more like analytics engineering. So it's always good to know as much details as possible, just know what to prepare, what's gonna happen, so it would be a bit shorter time, for candidates maybe.
Yeah, so yeah, we recently actually hired a few people. I was involved in the hiring process, and we do have. So let's say the first interview is pretty classic, like you know the HR interview, classical screening, and after the first interview, our HR department gives green light or red light if the candidate matches our values, if the candidate high level matches the job description, from maybe the technical side. Of course, it's impossible to evaluate that on the first interview, but basically you leave a good impression to the HR, and then we do a task. So we prepared the task that's proved to be quite challenging for a number of candidates. It's when you look at it, it's fairly simple, but on the other hand, once you start doing it, you face some let's say Easter eggs, some maybe data loading issues. So I don't want to give too many details for potential candidates, but basically, yeah. So the task is we want to check not how fast the person could complete the task. There's a time limit, but we're more interested to see how the person is thinking, how the person is approaching the problem. If the person does not complete the task in time, uh, you know, we ask for reasoning, like why didn't you complete it in time? What were the challenges that you faced? How would you complete it if you had more time? Some candidates even, they send one half of the task that they managed to do, in the designated time, and then they, the next day they send the remaining part of the task, saying that I kind of couldn't, sleep the whole night, and I was thinking about the task, and I finally did it. So maybe it doesn't matter anymore, but still, here's the remaining part of the task. And we do admire that those things, and I always give extra points to people who are persistent, and because, as I mentioned, it's not about the speed; it's about how the person thinks, how stubborn he is, and yeah. So you can even see a few qualities, not necessarily technical qualities, but the personal qualities of the person. So uh, we were really proud of the task that we were able to kind of come up with. So yeah, so after the HR interview, we give the task. So if the task is sufficiently completed, and we evaluate the task, we leave feedback for the candidate, even though if he doesn't pass the task, or we don't kind of move with with the candidate, we still provide the feedback of what was good, what needs improvement. And with those candidates that do good, we schedule a meeting with myself. So that's for analytics engineering. For data engineering, it's Nereus, and we basically want to understand, so we want some comments about the task. So why did you choose this kind of approach? What do you think were the most challenging parts of this task? And we dig into the person's you know prior experience, or we tell them about the position in more depth. What HR doesn't cover, and maybe there are some certain areas that HR indicated for us to kind of pick on, to see have a better view of the candidate. And once that is done, and you get a green light from myself, we have this very new concept that we copied with pride from Amazon. So it's called the bar raiser interview. So I highly recommend this bar raiser approach to hiring, to every company out there. So basically, what happens after the third interview, no, not third, second interview after the task, we send the person to a bar raiser. So a bar raiser is a person in the company, a number of people in the company that were chosen by our leadership team, who are considered the bar raisers in Hostinger. So let's say for our team, it's Karolis. So Karolis is, he's responsible for the communication in Hostinger, and he's very skilled. He has very good soft skills. He's identified in Hostinger as a very high performer, and we want candidates to kind of, he doesn't care about your technical background. He doesn't care, about your prior experience. From the feedback that we provide to him about, what we want him to dig into in his bar raiser interview, he interviews the candidate, and basically it's, you can have biases as an analytics engineer. So we had a few candidates that the HR said yes, of strong hire, then task was properly done, and then I have the interview. I know that I need the person because the backlog is filling up, and so I have this kind of bias to hire the person because maybe I will close my eyes to certain red flags about the person because I need him. So I still say, okay, that's a hire, even though I saw something there. And then the person goes to the bar raiser, and the bar raiser does not have a bias. He doesn't care that we need the person. All he cares about is, will the person that we will potentially hire, will he raise the bar for the team? So if we're hiring an analytics engineer, if he joins the data team, will he improve, you know, the every person on that team? Because Carlos knows me, Carlos knows Nerius, Carlos knows Greta. He knows the level at which we perform tasks, the level at which we interact with the stakeholders. So he knows what's how high the bar should be. So, and whenever he interviews that person, he does a really great job at identifying that. He does a really great job at throwing out any biases that we might have. And there were situations where I said go, HR said go, and then Carlos said no, and that's it. We kind of had a discussion. Why do you think so? And he presented the arguments, and it totally made sense, and it kind of opened our eyes. And yeah, so we and so the from there, if Carlos says yes, we hire, and if Carlos says no, we don't. So basically, that's the progress. So after the bar raiser, we kind of give the offer to the candidate, and that's yeah, that's the progress. So I
Okay.
definitely recommend the bar raiser step for every company.
Damn, that's interesting, right? Knowing that finding hard people is already hard, and add additional step. But I guess it all makes sense. If it's uh like actually for the bias part, I guess it's super hard, right? Because you also have your like predefined ideas, because you read CV, you have like thoughts about this and that, and you have like a third party, let's say, who doesn't care. So that actually makes sense a lot. Okay, that's nice. So mentioned a lot, about some of the qualities you're actually, you're looking, or like what's visible, when person sends, their assignment back, right? So what are the soft qualities, like soft skills you're actually looking? What's important for you? Because I guess no Carlos is going to look from a different angle.
Yeah, so um, the analytics engineering department and the position itself is a mix of this business knowledge and technical knowledge. So you basically have to know how to communicate very technical things to less technical people and be able to understand, business knowledge and translate it into maybe sometimes very technical stuff to make things work. So communication skills is a must. So you cannot be just technical, just write code and don't care about the business. I just have a task at hand and that's it. So that would be communication is one of the skills at the top. Of course, technical knowledge is also a must. And I always admire people who give this extra step into learning new things. So if they know SQL, they still, they read a blog, maybe the DBT Labs blog, maybe, they check the Coalesce conference. That's I also highly recommend for any analytics engineer. And they check, the best practices when it comes to writing SQL code. They're also interested maybe in expanding their knowledge in Python. And so these burning eyes are what we're looking for. And me personally, because when a person comes in and he kind of you know yeah, so I have this, this and that experience, yeah, this would excite me, and he's kind of very passive. So uh, you know we want people with those burning eyes and with that ambition. So ambition is also a very strong quality that I'm kind of disappointed in because I interviewed quite some candidates, and I'm really kind of sad to see that not a lot of people have this ambition to you know work should not only motivate you because you get salary at the start of every or end of every month. Work should be this kind of a driver for you. It should be like an extension of your personality. So for me personally, I like to help people, and I like technical things. I like to understand how things work. So being in data is like a perfect match for me. And that's when, that ambition and motivation comes from, to go to work, go to help people, you know, use my full potential at work. So I'm really looking for that in every person that comes to the data team. So not only do they, yeah, I like tech things, I like to, write code. No, that's not enough. Like, what motivates you? What drives you? What gets you out of bed every morning? So that's also a really important factor. And I guess, understanding understanding what the person is interested outside of work. That's also, I was skeptical about this, and when the HR told me, make sure to ask that, and I'm like, so, it's up to the person, like what interests him. But it's actually kind of a great representation of what the person is like, what the person is like outside of work, and what you can expect inside of work. So mostly those people who are more outgoing, they like to, you know, run, ride bikes, go hiking, meet new people. So those usually tend to be higher performers here at Hostinger, and they like to challenge things. They like to challenge themselves, and then when they come into work, they challenge others. So when others are challenged, everybody wins. This healthy competition between people appears. So that's a really important factor for us. So yeah, so I guess these three sums a great candidate.
Okay, makes sense. Uh so now let's say you found the soft skills, you're looking, technical task was done, Carlos gives a green light, all goes well, right? So how technically, would it look like, when you onboard to the team? Let's say, first week, 2 weeks, is there a plan, what can a candidate, like, potential new joiner, right? What she, would do actually during the first days, first weeks.
Yeah, so we're actually onboarding two new people currently. So uh, my goal is to give as much context to the person as possible, because to be successful in the data department, and I strongly believe that to be successful in every company, in every position, you have to have context. And to gain context, you have to talk to people, you have to understand how the business makes money. You have to understand what problems are the customers facing. So I'm really kind of a fan of going to the CS department and checking the tickets that our customer success specialists are answering. So you you have to get a really good feel of the pulse of the company. So I guess the first week is always like setting up your PC, getting to know, some, security trainings, whatever. But at the same time, I like to schedule meetings with people from different departments. So, maybe a 30-minute chat of, you know, what the person is doing, how did they came to Hostinger, maybe they have some interesting story, what product are they working on. And you get to gather that context. You also get this confidence of, maybe you're talking to the person online, but when you'll meet him at the company event, you're like, hey man, we talked, and you have this kind of, you lose this shyness, and you become more, you know, because there's so many smart people working here, and in every, I guess, company, there's a lot of smart people, and the best thing you can do is kind of be the sponge to go ask, talk to them, gather, context, gather knowledge. So the first steps, I guess, is to get to know the company, get to know the people. And then we don't have this strict, I guess, or very well established onboarding process, but we gradually then uh, you know give the person, let's say, okay, so there's this task to pull a user list. You know, I need users from this and this brand who spent this and this amount of money. So these user list tasks really give a good kind of understanding where to search for certain data, like what's the structure of the data, you know, why this table, why that table, and you get to understand the main sources of data in the company. And because the user list tasks are sometimes, I guess, underrated, but no, because they're usually simple to do if you know if you're properly set up as a data team and your infrastructure is properly set up, they're easy to do. But when you're doing them, you find a lot of bugs. You find you know some interesting I guess insights when you're doing those user list tasks. So we like to do that like to give those tasks to our rookies. And so gradually they do their user list task, then maybe a smaller project that's not very time sensitive. So they get this feeling of ownership because you know, oh, there's a you know a project that I'm owning now. So then they start to communicate with the stakeholder. Then they start you know creating new data sources. Then they start creating models. They're documenting them. So they're becoming this full member of the data team. So basically giving them sense of responsibility, giving them sense of ownership really helps in the onboarding process. And of course, giving them as much context as fast as possible, well, as fast as they are able to digest, and then gathering feedback from the people that they work with. So the data teams and data team members, they're very you know have a lot of contact with different people inside the company, so it's easy to gather feedback from those people and see how the person is doing.
Okay. So since you have like a lot of things going on, I guess, so different people, different priorities, mentioned time sensitive matters, right? So do you have any like techniques or like in general, predefined ways of working in general?
mm, I wouldn't say like any techniques, but
It isn't Wild West, right?
no,
Who screams loudest, or like,
yeah. So yeah, we try to do the project man stakeholder management is kind of a difficult topic, and we do a lot of training around that, how to approach a problem, how to do certain type of hypothesis analysis, or a top-down approach to a problem, having this critical thinking, not jumping to every task, and as you mentioned, whoever screams loudest gets their stuff done. But we're actually started with Jira just I guess you could say recently. We try to do we try to be agile, we try to do Scrum, but it's not like this very straight, you know let's say by the book. We try to adapt it to our own team. So we do the sprint plannings, we do bi-weekly sprints, we do we ask people to create Jira tickets, as annoying that might be, but whenever a person creates that ticket, it goes to the backlog. We try to manage the backlog. It sometimes it goes really well, sometimes not well, but so it can become very chaotic at times, especially if you're working on multiple projects. But we yeah, I guess we're learning as we go, and the problem that I talked about earlier, about like not problem, a challenge, about those distributed analysts and distributed analytics engineers, is also something that we're you know it's a method of controlling this constant flow of questions, constant flow of requests from the stakeholders, and but I wouldn't say there's like we haven't figured it out. We haven't figured out how to control this flow, but we're iterating, and for now, having Jira, having you know this dedicated Slack channel for any questions that people might have, and having more senior people who can evaluate the task more critically really helps. So yeah, but we're still in process.
Do you have a definition of done defined on each task, or it's more like a gut feeling based approach?
Yeah, so we talk about this constantly, the closure part, like when is the task complete. So uh, we foster this iteration culture at Hostinger, so we don't expect the perfect result. We like it when an iteration is done and then you get to see the result. You have to leave feedback. So we try to do these smaller steps, and then ask for feedback. Small step, ask for feedback, and I guess the project is never done. It's iteration is complete, and I will not be working on this for the next X amount of weeks, because there's this next project that's been in the backlog for some time now. So we iterate as much as possible to achieve the desired result, and that's basically how it goes.
Okay. What naturally came to my mind now, right? We're talking about definition of done, and you mentioned before, that like test every mod, like every model is supposed to have tests and whatnot, right? So what's your kind of a take, what to test and how to maintain those tests, that are actually, don't get too old too fast, right?
Which test are you referring to?
Right. What test do you have? Let's
Oh,
start from there then.
you mean like in terms of like the technical tests, or testing ourselves in
Uh,
term
let, let, let's talk DBT starts, I guess. Let's not talk about A/B testing and these kind of matters, so like code testing, like the Python code testing. Like since you
Yeah.
mentioned analytics engineer, so let's talk about DBT.
Yeah, so we're actually scratching the surface in terms of DBT tests. Uh, we're, I guess, doing those standard testing procedures of having expectations of our unique keys. We have unique not null tests, but we always understand that there's so many things we could test, so many things we're not currently doing, and but for now, I guess they are sufficient. Sufficient. Sorry, I need my charger. I asked my colleague to bring the charger because my PC might die. Excuse me. So yeah, the tests are, uh, we talked with the product team, and they didn't even realize, the capabilities that we do have with DBT. And so basically, the short answer is we're not doing it. We're not uh, we're not doing enough with DBT tests, but the basic part of DBT tests cover the need that we currently have. So yeah, so we're not good at testing right now.
Okay, so you're using basically the generic DBT test, not using the great expectations. Do you have any, let's say, custom tests?
Yeah, custom tests we use for cross-checking. So let's say we have a marketing spending dashboard, and at the end, when you have the dashboard model, so the dashboard query, we like to test if so the Google ad spend at the source model, when you sum the spend, does it equal to the spend in the dashboard? So that test would run on every day, and we would test this. We would test. Yeah, so basically marketing spending is something that the custom tests are running on. Can't think on top of my mind right now any other custom tests, but we always explore like the DBT utils packages for testing. We explore also, we tried great expectations, but it kind of didn't at the time did not suit our needs, and we tried to come up with anomaly testing of ourselves. We try to create those anomaly testing scripts, but it kind of did not take off, I guess, at that time. But we face these challenges, I guess, and as the challenge comes, we try to kind of figure out as so let's say we now have a problem, let's say, of our stakeholders notify us, oh, look, there are no records in that table for yesterday. And so that feels bad. And we kind of, the data engineers then try to figure out a way of, sounds so basic, but, we don't cover that. It's fairly simple to check, like if the last day has X amount of records, so we expect the X amount of records to be today. So yeah, so basically we spend a lot of time thinking about those tests, but the implementation part is challenging.
But that depends, if it's not a priority, or like that not like occurring not that frequent, right? It maybe doesn't make sense, to invest time. A couple of suggestions from my end. So there are two good packages on DBT. One is Elementary, another one is Redata. So Redata, I guess, can do this kind of a statistical anomaly checking. Elementary has something similar. It also has some column level lineage. Both of them have open source and like the paid version. And no, this was not sponsored by any of them, because I had chats, with both of the creators of it, and it was like interesting to see how it goes. And it kind of looks like promising things, like quite out of the box. It very neatly integrates with things. So check that out. So on that end.
Yeah, the column level lineage part is also a hot topic, and we were attending the Coalesce conference in New Orleans, and I asked Christian Handy, the CEO of DBT Labs, like, are there any plans for DBT to implement column level lineage as a built-in feature? And because now we have the model level lineage, but column level lineage would be next level stuff. And he kind of gave a vague answer about column level lineage is covered by our partners, so we don't want to spend time developing that feature anymore. But I guess that would be a very, very useful feature for a lot of data teams, a lot of data engineers. And imagine changing a column and seeing how that might impact number of dashboards. And so that would be from DBT side, without having any packages. That would be amazing.
80-20 rule, right? Like if you spend 80% of your time, it would give you value, for only 20. It doesn't make sense, right? Yeah, but actually, I kind of, another turn on that, right? That they basically acquired Transform, right? They had metrics layer, and like, look where we're ending up, right? They're tightly integrating that into their thing. So that might also happen, so they will acquire someone with column level lineage, bam, it's integrated. So, okay. Okay, we're coming to a bit of an end, of our conversation. So another interesting thing, is like, hosting is quite big organization, as I understand, right? So a question is, for any career paths, like what are the career paths, available in the company, for the people who would be aware, right? Horizontal, vertical, what are the options? Do you have maybe examples?
So I guess the best example would be me. I'm
horizontal.
Yeah, both horizontal and vertical. I've moved, as I mentioned, joined as a marketing assistant. From marketing assistant, I went to affiliate marketing manager. Then from there, I went to this initiative. I was responsible for WordPress, for the WordPress kind of product part of Hostinger. Then from there, I went to back to the affiliate team. From affiliate team, I then went to the data team. Inside the data team, we formed the analytics engineering team. and then I went, being to the analytics engineering lead. So basically, I don't know, that kind of tells the story about how easy it is to move if you have kind of ambition, if you have I don't know, this drive to do things, to because when I came out of the university, I didn't know like what I want to do. So I finished, international business. So basically, you get to understand the language of business. You get to understand how, at the very high level how businesses work, but you're not sure of, so what do I do? I don't become a businessman when I leave the university. So being in this company really enabled me, and I guess enabled a lot of people. We have examples of people joining as customer success specialists, interacting with our customers, and a year or a few years later, they become, developers. They become. We have examples of, people from the CS team now in our core team, C level team. So I'm really kind of big fan of Hostinger for this, and it really enables the person to find himself. And uh, some time ago, I had a conversation with our CEO, Arnas, and I kind of asked him this question, like how to not be an average person inside our organization. How not to be this steady performer. How to be always one step ahead. How to achieve this high performance. And uh, he really kind of uh, made me think again of like that nothing is stopping you. Like inside of this organization, you can, go shadow a product owner if you want to be a product owner. Go talk to, the chief product officer if you're interested in the product team. Go talk to the, CMO. There's always something cooking there, and whatever interests you basically. And if you have passion, if you have this thirst for knowledge, if you have you know this kind of drive to expand your horizons, it's basically limitless. And so I'm really really happy that Hostinger provides this opportunity to be able to move horizontally and not only vertically.
Okay, I guess I shot myself in the foot with this question. When we started with this, and I'm like shooting myself in the foot. Yeah. So what are the options? Bam. Okay, so to not shoot myself again. To a different foot.
And
So that
sorry to
yeah.
interrupt. I have to say that I was not paid or in any other way reimbursed for this for what I said. It's coming from the heart.
Okay. So no sponsorship, no ads were, nothing was taken, while doing this podcast. And hopefully, none will be taken after I ask my, the next question. So what would be the book you would suggest, to the listeners?
Yeah. So recently I discovered this superhuman. His name is David Goggins. Uh, I came across him. I guess I sometimes listen to the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. For interesting speakers. But so David Goggins is a Navy SEAL. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he's an ultra marathon runner. So, but I'm not doing enough in telling about his story, because he's basically a superhuman. So, and he has these two books. The first one is called "Can't Hurt Me," and so I highly recommend it to anyone. Like, not even if you're not passionate about running, or you know he's just this the story his story is not to say not only to say inspiring, but it's so crazy that I don't know, I get chills every time I hear it. Like, he came absolutely from nothing. He was weighing at, I don't know, like 150 kilos, and then he became a Navy SEAL. He became an ultra marathon runner. He's still doing it. He's not one of those guys who, those motivational speakers who, talk a lot, but they haven't went through all the struggle that they are actually talking about. And David is a person who, he was knees deep in all of that, struggle and in all of those hardships. And he really, his book is really easy to read. The Can't Hurt Me, really easy to read and to follow that story of his. And the craziness of his stories are really inspiring, and it makes you want to not only go run or you know do ultras, but just getting your ass off your couch, getting your when you're thinking that, oh, my job is hard, I have to do the 9 to 6, and then I have to do some chores, whatever, and then you read some David Goggins, and then uh, basically you get fired up instantly. And he recently released the Never Finished book. So Never Finished kind of goes a bit deeper inside his thinking, why he's doing the things that he's doing, and he's giving some great tips of how to coloss your mind, because his philosophy is that life is hard, life shouldn't be easy, and you have to always be prepared. So, and colossing your mind is basically a daily activity that we should always endure, and to keep ourselves out of the comfort zone. So David is a symbol of outside the comfort zone. So Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished are the book
Uh, he,
definitely recommend.
didn't expect this book recommendation, this person, but I can elaborate on the crazy part. I think he broke all of his bones in his foot while running some marathon.
Yeah.
And he trains every day, and it's like insane, with his routines and what he's doing. Yeah, I have this book, on my to read list, and I'm like, okay, maybe next time, but I guess it becomes a thing, So
Yeah.
okay, one crazy, crazy but like motivational person, who's like kicking ass every day. So thank you for the recommendation. And to wrap up, so it was really nice talking to you. Um, so thank you for agreeing to talk to me and giving this a nice story and conversation with me. And for the listeners, so thank you for tuning in, and see you in the next podcast.
Yeah. Thank you.